Welcome. This week we're getting ready to go over lessons 81 to 84. Before we start on this week's lessons, I want to take a moment and share something with you. Kathleen Cotter Lawler, who is Dr. Cotter's daughter, sent an article to those of us doing the overview videos and asked if we could incorporate this into the video. I think it's an excellent idea. However, I'm not going to do the whole thing at once. And there's actually three things. It's three phrases that can demotivate students in math class. And this was written by a math teacher called Rachel Furman. So the first phrase I want to focus on is the phrase, "This is so easy." I know I have caught myself saying that. And for us adults, especially, some things are super easy, but we forget what it's like to be young and struggling with understanding. So when we come in and we're saying, oh, this is so easy, and it's not, and your child struggles, then they start thinking that they're not smart. What they need to know is it's okay for things to be hard. It's okay for us to have to struggle through things. Not everything's going to be easy. Some things might be easier for someone to understand, but not another person, and vice versa. So, my two boys, I taught them together, and I remember we would come along to a lesson. The younger son would just zoom through it, get it done quickly. My older son, it took him a while to process and get understanding. And then it would flip flop. We'd come to another lesson, and my older son would just zoom along and get it really quick. And his brother would struggle a little bit. So we use that as a learning opportunity to say, hey, you know what? We're all created differently. Some of us are going to learn something quicker. Some of us are going to take a little while to learn it. That's okay. Something I like to read from this article says, by calling something easy, we devalue the experience of those students who find it difficult and create a space that does not welcome their struggle or their questions. We, as parents, teachers, we have a responsibility. We need to create an environment where your children feel safe to struggle, safe to make mistakes, safe to question things. And while this is talking about math, it's talking about a lot more than that too. As a parent, make your place a safe place for your kids. So when it comes to math, we really want a place where our children can fall in love, so to speak, with the ability to discover the solutions to the problems. So remember, try very hard not to say, oh, this is so easy, because it may not be. I also want to apologize that maybe the color is fluctuating a little bit. I sit in front of a window when I do these videos to get more natural light. Well, it's super windy right now where I'm living, and it's just blowing the trees, and I have an awning in front of me. Oh my gosh, it's just going crazy. So I've tried to eliminate that as much as possible. But if you see a lot of the color fluctuation, that's why, and I'm sorry. So let's go see what materials are needed for this week. You'll need the abacus, your clock, the hour number cards and the minute number cards, your math game book with the corner cards, and the worksheets. Pretty light week on materials. Lesson 81, hours and minutes. This will be the last lesson that is focused on telling time in level B. They're going to have more practice in the warm-ups, but for now, this is the last lesson. In the section on hours in the day, when you're asking these questions, if your children need to use the abacus, have it out and have it handy. Some may be able to know what 12 plus 12 is. Some may still need to use the abacus to figure it out. Take a look at the top of the second page in the explanations for teachers. It says if there are fewer than 24 children, give some children 2 cards. Just so you guys know, when this curriculum is written, it is written for school. for a school setting, for a public school or a private school. Then they go in and they modify it for those who homeschool. So this is one of those areas that did not get taken out. So when you read this, don't be like, what? 24 kids? Wow. Be freaking out. No, it's okay. You're probably doing this with one student, maybe two. All right. It's okay. But I thought it's interesting, to let you guys know that when they do make this, it is actually written for the public school. We have lots of schools who use this curriculum. I wish more schools would use the curriculum, but we're getting there. Lesson 82, adding 4-digit numbers on paper. I find the title of this lesson really interesting because in my mind, they've been adding 4-digit numbers on paper, right? They've been doing those sums practice. But what this is saying is you're going to start having your children do it on paper, hopefully without using the abacus. Although it does start off with the sums greater than 9,999, it is asking your child to use their abacus. But then the very next activity, you're going to work with your children to process through adding a 4-digit number, 2 4-digit numbers on paper without the abacus. Just know, some of your children will be able to do this. Some of your children may not. Don't just say, okay, here's the abacus, do it, but allow them to do the first step on the abacus. So asking them, for the example, they have 8 plus 6 in the ones. You can ask, what is 8 plus 6? And they can tell you, hopefully they can tell you mentally, it's 14. All right, so what do we do? Do we write 14 down in the one section? I mean, it is 14 ones, but it's also a 10 and 4 ones, right? So we're going to keep our 4 there. What do we do with our 10? We're going to put it in the 10 column. We're going to add a 10 to the 10 column. So this is stuff we want them to process through mentally. If they still need to use the abacus, then let them use the abacus for the 8 plus 6, and then you walk it through. Then when you get to the tens column, let's see if we could do this without the abacus. And again, encourage them to do it without the abacus. But if they really, really struggle, not just because they're lazy or they just don't want to have to think hard, but they truly are struggling, go ahead and walk it through with the abacus, and then continue with the hundreds column. Again, encouraging them to try it mentally, and then with the thousands. And then continue that. Eventually, they will get their confidence to be able to do this on paper without using the abacus. Notice what it says for the teacher at the bottom of that first page. It says, be sure that the child knows most of his addition facts and are very proficient with adding 4-digit numbers on side 2 of the abacus. So if your child knows most of their addition facts and has shown proficiency adding 4-digit numbers on side 2 of the abacus, then work through this. Continue with this. If they haven't, you're going to have to adapt and modify a little bit. It's going to take a little bit longer, but that's okay. They're going to still have sums practice every day for a while. Help them to try and work through this without the abacus. If they need it, let them use it, but continue with another problem and let's try it without the abacus. Keep encouraging them. Then the game is the corners game. And this time, notice where you start. You start with 1,000, then you add up from there. It gives them more practice adding bigger numbers. Lesson 83, adding very large numbers. This is an enrichment lesson. Remember, we've talked about this. You decide if you want to do this or not. You decide if your child would enjoy doing this. If you can look at this and you think, oh, good gracious, my child will have a meltdown. Don't do it. Save it for another time. But you may have children who will love to do this. There's something about working in bigger numbers that a lot of kids really enjoy doing. So let them try it. Notice there's 2 worksheets. What you could do is give them one worksheet, see how they do. You can save that second worksheet for another time. You could save it for a 5th day, This might even be a great worksheet to save for one of those sick days. You know, when you're just having a hard day, maybe you're not feeling well, you don't feel like teaching, or it's just been one of those days and it's like, oh, you know what? Keep this on standby, pull it out, say, hey, why don't you work on this worksheet today? It also helps you to show your child there's a pattern here. Because look, we end with the same number we started with, but it's 10 times bigger. Isn't that cool? And again, you'll be playing the corners game, but starting with 1000 and then adding on to that. Last lesson for this week, lesson 84, solving take from problems. Yes, we're going to start doing some subtraction. And we'll do that for about the next 10 lessons. And it's just an introduction. It's okay if your children don't master it because level C, that's the main focus. Our big focus in B is for addition. The big focus in C is subtraction. The big focus in D is multiplication. I mean, you do all the other stuff in there too, but that's the big focus. So again, we're just dabbling in this just a little bit, the next 10 lessons. So this one, you're going to give them their worksheet. They have the part whole circle set already on their worksheet. They have a little story problem they're going to read, or you may have to read for them. I had to read for my boys for a little while. It's okay. So read for them if they need it, and then they're going to solve it. They're going to work through. Now, look at what it says on the side about how when a child has a problem where the given quantity is increased, it's going to be easier to solve. Where this type of problem, it can be a little bit more challenging. We're going to come at these problems first as addition. Then they're going to write it as a subtraction problem. The example is Jay had 8 cherries and ate 3 of them. How many cherries did Jay have left? So we could start off, how many cherries were there? There were 8. Well, does that go in the part or the whole? It's going to go into the whole. That's how many he had. But then what did he do? He ate some. So that would be a part. So we're going to put the 3 in a part because that's how many he ate. Now we need to know how many does he have left? Then they could figure that out. Because what plus 3 equals 8? 5. So they'll see how 3 plus 5 equals 8. 5 plus 3 equals 8. And then we could say, can we write this as a subtraction problem? Then they could write it as 8. We're going to minus 3. I almost said take away 3. We're going to take away 3, but we shouldn't use take away. And you'll see that over here to the right. So some of us who've used these terms for a long time are going to have to work really hard not to use those terms. Anyway, 8 minus 3, or we're going to subtract 3 from 8. It will equal 5. There's 4 problems on here, so your child will have some practice working through it, and you're done. All right, we're finished for this week. Yay, right? How exciting. We are finishing up working with clocks. And again, just know that if your child needs more practice, they're going to have more practice. I think it's around lesson 89 in the warm-up that they bring back some clock questions. You're going to start working with subtraction, and then you have that enrichment lesson in between. Fun week. You guys enjoy, and I hope to see you next week as we go over lessons 85 to 88. Until then.